It was the year that Gwen Stefani came out with that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the videos we did.
Is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
If we'd win, you could shave my beard.
We like to keep it in good spirit with the trash talking on game day.
Could she throw like a girl?
No, she doesn't. She could probably outthrow you.
Although there's a brunette down there, and then there's a blonde down there. Y'all are on the wrong team. All right? Okay. Well, I'm actually a blonde as well.
I was team Brunettes, and I still am team Brunettes, but shh, don't tell anybody.
Blondes versus Brunettes, which grew into RivALZ. These young women who came to us with an idea that they could raise some funds and bring some friends together. I don't think they ever imagined what they were bringing to the Alzheimer's Association was going to raise $9 million and bring literally hundreds and hundreds of young people to our cause.
My experience with Alzheimer's starts with my grandmother, my dad's mom. She was diagnosed in 80.
Kate, tell us just a little bit about your grandmother.
She's bedridden, my mom said, and she used to be able to say our names. She can't, she just mumbles a little bit.
I've heard all the stories about how she got lost. The one time she fed me 9 bowls of carrots. As a toddler, the carotene in my back actually turned orange. I think it was very early for a lot of these Alzheimer's diagnoses.
Of course, the Houston chapter is only one of 210 support groups throughout the country.
My mother helped start the Houston chapter. It was very much a part of my life growing up. My grandmother was, at the end, she was on a feeding tube. When we were in high school, we needed a fundraiser for Project Graduation. My mother came up with the idea of doing a powder puff football game. There was like an Alzheimer's meeting in town, and Shelley Fabre, who was on the national board for the Alzheimer's Association, was in town and had become good friends with my mom through the organization, and my mom brought Shelley Fabre to the game, which was pretty cool. A few years later, and I guess the thought that someone else in your family could get Alzheimer's, right? There was no proven genetic component, but it could happen. My dad started forgetting things. He was diagnosed at 63. My sister had this great idea when she was living in Washington, D.C. to do a blondes versus brunettes game and have the money go to the Alzheimer's Association. She put on her game, and I was like, that's a great idea. And I just moved back to Houston from New York, and there was this girl I worked with. I talked to her about it, and I'm like, listen, I just moved back here, and I know I'm from here, kind of, but I don't know anybody. And I said, and you know everybody. So will you do this with me?
My grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and, she wouldn't necessarily know who I was, but she made me feel like it a lot of the times just because she was so sweet. I knew Kate would understand. She was there for me and understood, and we became really fast friends. And then we figured out that my dad and her mom went on a date in college.
Mm-hmm. They did. It's a helpless feeling when your parent has Alzheimer's.
When someone has Alzheimer's, the grief has already begun. They're not dead, but you're already grieving the person that they were. And I think that because this was a younger audience, it wasn't being talked about within our age group. 20 years ago, Alzheimer's was still very misunderstood.
So in 2006, we were still trying to reduce the stigma associated with Alzheimer's. Kind of the cutting edge was that we were starting to talk about mild cognitive impairment. The idea that someone was pre-Alzheimer's disease was a new concept, that people weren't actually manifesting with Alzheimer's disease but had cognitive changes, which at least some of them progressed to Alzheimer's disease and some of them perhaps didn't progress.
And people were so excited about it.
So excited.
The coaches were so into it.
It wouldn't have happened, but
they had their own little tight coach shorts on and headbands, and James Sivko getting so into his duties as announcer.
We had it at Scotty Cavan Field at St. John's School.
I don't think they let us bring kegs the second year. The first year they were like, yeah, sure, you can totally do it. They were super casual about it. And the next year they're like, okay, maybe you don't bring the kegs. Every year it became a little more profesh. I don't know where we found the time.
We didn't do our jobs we got paid for.
We
did
spent a
this.
lot of time doing this and pretending to do our jobs.
Yes.
And I'm glad I did that. Don't
Me too.
regret 1 second of it.
No, and I met one of my best friends. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding.
I was able through my job to procure some really amazing prizes if you fundraise the most money, such as solid gold $1,000 earrings. I mean, talk about enticing some girls to play.
I got a Jimmy Choo purse. People came out of the woodwork.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden, all of these people were like, I have a connection. My grandmother, my parent. There were a lot of people who wanted to support the organization and had absolutely no idea how to go about it.
My first position with BVB was as a defensive coach. I was coaching the defensive backs. At that time for coaching, it was about 30 practices, so 60 hours plus the game, happy hours after the practices, all the other events we had. That was the easy part, going out, making new friends, teaching people how to play football, watching these women improve, make unbelievably athletic plays. Totally worth it.
If you would have told that girl back in 2014 that she would have served on leadership for 4 years, co-chaired the event for 3 years, and then became the overall fundraising in the history of RivALZ nationwide, I would have thought you were crazy. I did go brunette on the game day. I would dye my hair brunette because I am a blonde playing on Team Brunette. So for a day I got to be a brunette, which was a lot of fun. That was probably the most asked question that I got throughout my BVB RivALZ career was, you play on Team Brunette? I feel like we've lived so much life, which I guess we have. But we've been through divorce, marriages, babies. Another friend that I met a few years later, I was a bridesmaid in her wedding. Girls that I've met are my lifetime friends.
Dana and Elizabeth were key in making it the success that it is and helping us improve on the event every single year. We wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for the two of them.
Absolutely.
And then we were lucky that we could brush off all the responsibilities to Jill and Callie when it was time.
My grandmother, my mom's mom, started developing symptoms when I was in middle school, passed away in her early 80s. This was immediately something I was interested in and supporting, and it also sounded like fun. And I only played the one season, which was probably for the best for the Brunettes overall. I was much better at fundraising and enjoying the parties than playing actual football. One of the best ways that I was able to raise as much money as I did one year was, this was a season of all of my friends getting married, wedding showers, parties, and my mom, of all people, said, here's what we're gonna do, because you're involved in this. All these parents of your friends from high school or college are gonna ask, well, what are you involved with right now? What are you doing? And I wasn't getting married and I wasn't dating anyone. So to avoid those awkward conversations, my mom printed on a piece of paper little strips of the fundraising website that was tied directly to my page. So when anybody asked me at a wedding shower, what are you doing? I said, here's what I'm doing, and this is where you can donate. And I have a fundraising goal. And sure enough, I ended up raising like $12,000 or $13,000 that season.
The way it took off, the way that it did, and the number of cities that it grew to, I like the time they spent into it to come up with a more appropriate name. Blondes versus Brunettes apparently was fun. That name came from my mom came up with it in high school, so it was the Blondes versus Brunettes.
Well, and I was blonde and she was
brunette. I mean,
so
it kind of made sense.
Yeah.
The RivALZ was a really catchy, cute name.
Yes.
With the investment of the organization, I kind of thought it could keep going.
So after chairing Blondes Brunettes, Kate Stukenberg approached me and Callie about joining the board. We were in a tiny office. It was brought up that we could really use more space, we could really use a building. There's people that are not being supported by our organization. And I remember being here for the groundbreaking with my little shovel. And it's really great now to see that this space is so beautiful and lived in and used. I signed up to play some flag football because my hair is brown. And here we are interviewing these massive construction companies.
To have younger people who were also excited about our mission and were reaching a different group of people, that was important for us to invite them to be part of our leadership.
Here we are 20 years later, and, you know, the worst has happened. And now it's my mom. So, I know a lot of people that are coming to the gala we're involved in, and I'm really happy that they're involved. But we can all be here together, and I know my mom, she would have been the first one to volunteer. She would have been out there selling tables, getting auction items, really leading the charge. I'm proud that my sister and I can pick up where she left off.
Here in Houston and across the country, a groundbreaking study looked at how lifestyle choices could impact when and if someone gets the debilitating disease.
The Pointer study happened to come to me right at that time.
Funded by the Alzheimer's Association, it's the largest study of its kind, and Houston was one of several select sites.
So for the first time really in my career at the Alzheimer's Association, we have good reasons to feel hopeful with a blood test that could actually identify Alzheimer's disease just by the biomarkers in the blood. And not only can they get accurately diagnosed that there's a biological change, but there are drugs that are available that can treat it. So do we think there's a lot more on the horizon? Yes. Do we think we really turned a corner in the identification and treatment of Alzheimer's? We talked about this for the first 20 years of my career, and all of a sudden we're actually at a point that we're talking about a easily diagnosable and at least somewhat treatable disease with more treatments coming that will be more effective. So exciting times to be in the field of Alzheimer's and dementia.
It's the same thing my mom always told me. You're predisposed, you're not predestined. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna get it. It's in the back of my head that it could happen. I live my life in a different way because of it. Ask my husband about that, and he would say, oh, yes, she does. Oh, yes, she does. So that's, that's the most I can do.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks.